Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today we'll be looking at J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. It's a book I'm sure many of you might have come across, maybe even back in high school. But today we're going beyond just the surface, beyond a simple book report. We're going to really try and unpack why this book still resonates with readers even decades after its publication.
It's really quite remarkable, isn't it? The Catcher in the Rye remains a mainstay in literature classes, and really, it's a touchstone for a lot of readers.
Yeah, and we're introduced to Holden Caulfield, who's our narrator. He's pretty cynical, pretty cutting, calls out everything he doesn't like as phony. So what's going on there? I mean, is that just typical teenage angst?
Well, Holden's phony label, it goes, I think, a bit deeper than just a phase. It reflects this really deep struggle with societal expectations, this desire for something real, for authenticity, that really drives the entire story.
So is it kind of like, I don't know, he's walking through life and just feels like his shoes don't fit, like everything's just a little bit off?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that feeling of not quite belonging, that's something that a lot of readers connect with.
Right.
The Catcher in the Rye, I mean, it really captures those feelings of growing up, facing disillusionment as you become an adult, and just, how complex relationships can be.
And Holden's also dealing with the loss of his younger brother, Allie, who died of leukemia. His death kind of looms over the whole story, doesn't it?
It does. And Allie's death is so central to understanding Holden. You see, for Holden, Allie represents this pure innocence, this innocence that he just desperately wants to protect.
Okay.
And he sees the world as this, corrupting force that's stealing away that innocence, and he's terrified of that happening to him, of becoming phony himself.
And that reminds me of Holden's fixation on that image of the Catcher in the Rye, where he mishears the lyrics of the Robert Burns poem, and he imagines himself saving children from falling off this cliff, which a lot of people interpret as him wanting to preserve that innocence, protect these children from falling into adulthood.
That's a really insightful observation. And, Holden, he really does cling to this idealized vision of childhood, and Allie becomes a symbol of that lost innocence for him. And this, his misinterpretation of the poem, it kind of perfectly encapsulates this yearning to hold on to that purity.
Right.
But of course, life isn't quite so simple, is it? And that tension between wanting to hold on and the realities of growing up, that's really at the heart of the novel.
And Salinger really pulls us into Holden's mind with this first-person narration. The way he captures the voice of a teenage boy, all the slang, all the tangents, it's really amazing.
It is. That stream of consciousness style, it's so unique, and it really makes the novel stand out. Salinger's use of language, it just immerses you in Holden's thoughts, right? Yeah. It's such a raw and immediate experience.
Right.
You're not just reading about Holden, you're almost living inside his head, feeling all his anxieties, his frustrations, and it's so powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And that brings us to another aspect of the novel.
Yeah.
The controversy surrounding it.
Exactly. The Catcher in the Rye, I mean, it's been both celebrated and challenged over the years. It sparked debates. It even faced censorship because of its language and some of its mature themes.
I mean, those things are what make it so powerful, right?
Yeah.
The honesty and just the rawness of it all.
Yeah.
Why do you think this book has stayed on high school reading lists for so long? I mean, Holden can be a little abrasive.
Well, the controversy, it kind of reflects the novel's power. The Catcher in the Rye, it pushes boundaries. It challenges these societal norms, and it asks these difficult questions about adolescence, identity, really just about the world we live in.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, why it continues to spark discussions even decades later.
It's not just a rebellious teenager whining about the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's much more than that. It's a coming-of-age story with all these layers of meaning. And Salinger's use of first-person narration is just brilliant. Holden's voice is so distinct and so authentic. It really draws you in, makes you feel like you're right there with him experiencing everything he's going through.
Yeah, those tangents, that stream of consciousness, it's like you're reading his diary.
Exactly.
But it's more than just style, though, right? The Catcher in the Rye, it tackles some really big themes. Innocence, loss, that feeling of alienation and this search for identity.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like a crash course in what it means to be human.
And those themes, they're timeless.
Yeah.
The anxiety that comes with growing up. This pressure to conform, the feeling of being an outsider, those are things that resonate with people across generations. That's part of what makes the book so enduring. It taps into something fundamental about the human experience.
And we can't forget about its cultural impact either. The Catcher in the Rye, I mean, it's not just a book. It's become this cultural phenomenon.
It really has. It's influenced other writers, musicians, filmmakers. You see references to it everywhere.
Yeah.
Holden Caulfield, with his red hunting hat and his cynical worldview, he's become this iconic figure. He represents this sort of teenage angst and rebellion that continues to capture our imaginations.
It's pretty mind-blowing that a book published in 1951 can still feel so relevant today. I mean, the world's changed so much since then, but somehow Holden's struggles still resonate with us.
It's because those big questions about life and identity, they're always going to be relevant.
Right.
No matter how much the world changes, the challenges of growing up, this desire to find your place in the world, those are universal experiences. Salinger, I mean, he really tapped into something profound about what it means to be human, and that's why The Catcher in the Rye continues to speak to us, even today.
And that's probably why it's still studied in literature classes, right?
Absolutely.
It's a book that makes you think, makes you feel, makes you question everything.
It reminds us that literature can be this incredibly powerful tool for exploring complex issues and really for understanding ourselves better.
Okay, so we've talked about the characters, the themes, the style, the impact of the book. But what about this question? If Holden Caulfield were a teenager today, in our world, with social media, instant everything, what do you think he would rebel against? What would he see as phony?
That's a fascinating question. Imagine Holden navigating the world of Instagram and TikTok, all those curated realities.
Right.
He'd probably be just appalled by the pressure to present this perfect image online.
Yeah.
The obsession with likes and followers.
Right.
He'd see the whole influencer culture as the ultimate expression of phoniness, wouldn't he?
Yeah, totally. He'd be calling out fake news and, like you said, curated feeds left and right.
Yeah.
But do you think he would be able to find any genuine connection in that world, though?
That's the core of it, isn't it? I mean, Holden's yearning for authenticity, for real connection, I think that would be amplified even more in today's world, It's hyper-connected, but it's also very isolating.
Right.
It makes you wonder, would he find some kind of solace in these online communities? Or would he just end up even more disillusioned by all the noise and the pressure to fit in? It's a question we're thinking about.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show how The Catcher in the Rye, this book written over 70 years ago, can still feel so relevant today.
Yeah.
It's like Holden's struggles, they go beyond just time and place, Something about being human, I think.
Absolutely. The challenges of growing up, trying to figure out who you are, wanting to find a place where you belong in a world that often feels fake, those are themes that speak to everyone, no matter when or where they live.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into The Catcher in the Rye,
Holden Caulfield, he might be a fictional character, but his story, I think, offers some valuable lessons for all of us. Whether you're a student studying literature, or you just enjoy reading, or maybe you're just trying to figure things out in your own life. The Catcher in the Rye, it asks us to take a look at the world around us, to embrace what makes us different, and to keep looking for what's real.
It reminds us that even when things feel disappointing or confusing, there's something beautiful about trying to make sense of it all and hoping that we can find connection and meaning in a world that doesn't always make sense.
So keep asking questions, keep searching, and maybe, just maybe, you'll end up touching a few hearts along the way.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Catcher in the Rye. Until next time, happy reading, everyone.